don't believe in the red coat, son?
It's a story made up to scare kids.
Oh, he's out there, son. Waiting for you.
Hey, Howard, are you in London?
No, I'm in Spain actually. I'm in Bilbao. I live in Bilbao, but I'm originally from the UK. Yeah, from up north in Yorkshire. Yeah.
Oh, Yorkshire, cool, man.
Uh-huh.
Bilbao, I haven't been to Bilbao. Cool. Okay,
Well,
great.
there's a great genre festival over here that you need to get your next film over to. Yeah.
Yeah, what's it called?
Fant, F-A-N-T, Fant Bilbao.
Okay, cool.
It's in the beginning of May, second week of May.
It's funny. One incarnation of my first movie, Zone 414. It was going to be financed by a UK company, and they had a studio in Yorkshire. I remember that. Yeah, it was wild. And it didn't work out that way, fortunately. But yeah, I go between here and London now because my son has been in London for the last few years with his mom. I go between Los Angeles and London, and so I like London. You know, I mean, I'm half English. My dad was from London, so I'm half English.
You actually live in Los Angeles now?
I've been here for 18 years. Yeah.
All right, a long time. Yeah, and I've been over here in Spain for 24 years. So yeah.
Okay, cool. I've been to Madrid, and I saw Guernica in the Reina Sofia, and it had a profound effect on me, like maybe 25 years ago. Yeah, amazing.
Brilliant. Yeah. Talking about amazing, congratulations on the movie Sunrise. I watched it last night, so it's really good. It's a really different take on kind of vampire lore. So I mean, the first thing I was interested to find out is how, I mean, I know you have written scripts. I mean, you did short films and you wrote your own scripts, and then kind of the feature films have been from other writers. So what is it? What's kind of your criteria when it comes to choosing a film? What was it about this specific one that kind of goes into vampire lore, but kind of turns it on its head with like small town bigotry and these kind of things? What was it about that one that kind of made you take the leap to direct this one?
Sorry. You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, it cuts up a little bit then. Did you hear me okay?
Could you just repeat the question? Sorry, I lost you for a second.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, I just started to cut off at the end there. Yeah, no, I was going to say, I'm curious of kind of your criteria of choosing scripts, because I know that you have written your own scripts for your short films. So what's kind of your criteria for choosing films now? And specifically this one, what was it about the vampire lore, mixing it with kind of small town idealism and bigotry that kind of took your attention?
Yeah, okay, so I never considered myself a writer, but the more like a kind of whatever you want to call it, like a screenwriter, because I always came from the visual. But the more I've done this, the more writing I do. And, you know, the final writing is in the editing, which is, I mean, I think it's my most, I enjoy it the most. It's the part of the movie making that I enjoy the most now, because you get to finally write the movie. Because what you write versus what you shoot versus what you cut, they're all different movies. You know, there's always growing and morphing. But all the scripts have come from writers, and each time I do more and more work on the scripts. Did a lot of work on this script for the next movie I'm doing. And but it's always the characters that draw me in, always. And with Sunrise, you know, everyone, the vampire, it was just like, look, it's a guy who's an addict who needs to find a way to recover. And he's an addict because he went through tremendous trauma. So I just relate it to the human condition, always try and just relate it back to human condition. It's the same as like Jane in Zone 414. She was just a prostitute. You know, she was like human garbage, and she had to find a way to recover from that kind of state of mind and that degradation and find her humanity. The whole fact that she was a robot, the whole fact that Fallon is a vampire, it's just it's just a kind of a disguise. It's just a, like a, what do you call it? It's just like decoration, you know. It's just an interesting way to look at a very human condition. That's all. That's all it is. So and then, you know, with this addiction, it puts you into a purgatory, a constant eternal purgatory, until you find a way to heal from it. And he starts to heal through the love he sees from the family that inhabited his house, you know, and that triggers him back into some form of humanity. And so I like that a lot, you know, because also, you know, there's humanity, and there's like, we're all capable of great love and great hatred, you know. We're all capable of monstrous acts, if, you know. So there's, you have to see the humanity in the Reynolds family as well. They're consumed with fear, and Joe Reynolds is like a little kid, like a bully, just like the bully in the kid story, the teenage storyline in the movie. And that echoes the generational kind of hatred and fear that runs through communities, you know, and ideologies or whatever. And so that's basically what attracted me. You know, there's these just human characters that are in these pretty intense community ruled by fear and hatred. And one of them, you know, it's like a blow-in, I suppose, like Fallon, gets infected by this, I suppose, to a degree. You get infected by this hatred, and this, and his loses his wife to this hatred. And, you know, the writer, you know, was set in Northern Ireland. I talked to the writer about it. He said, well, I said, what's this movie about? He said, it's about atonement. But it's like, I don't know. I think it really generated off the back of like Northern Ireland and the Troubles. And there's so much, there still is, to a degree, under the surface. There's a lot of polarity against which side are you on, and that. So there was a lot of violence and a lot of darkness, a lot of hatred, and growing up in that. I mean, the tone of the movie, of the script, was so dark. You know, it was so dark. Ronan's writing is very intense, and the characters, it's the characters that he created, really drew me in. And then we had to finesse the genre elements more, because it was fighting against human drama, against like a horror movie, against a Western, against teenage love story. There's so many different things, because the movie had so many other directors and actors attached to it at different stages. And for whatever reason, it didn't come to pass, didn't come to light. So, I don't know. I always tend to end up with movies that can't be made. Go to Andrew, he'll figure it out. So, and that's okay. You know, I'm good at fixing like something that has a life, you know, or fixing a problem. I kind of like something that's not quite there, but it's got a pulse, you know. And this script had a real pulse, but it was in those characters, and it was Joe Reynolds that was extraordinary. I mean, it was such a potent character. Role, yeah. I mean, I knew that role was going to get a great actor, and we got Guy in the end. You know, took it, you know. So. And then that sets the tone, you know, that sets the creative kind of tone for the movie, you know. So, you know, because it wasn't easy to cast. A lot of actors don't want to play vampires because they just think they're going to be in capes and they're going to be running around like a bunch of idiots. And, you know, actors don't want to do that, you know. There's actors don't want to do lots of things, you know. They're very self-conscious, and they want to make sure they're protected. And
yeah, that was one of my questions, actually. I was going to ask you, especially Guy Pearce's role, because especially the PC that everybody has gone completely PC and cancel culture. Like that, people associate the actors with the roles that they play. So I would have thought he was probably quite reticent to take on the role at first because of that. No,
Not in the slightest, because
no.
that's the kind of, he's an artist, you know. So
Yeah,
he
no. I mean,
doesn't.
I completely agree because it's an actor. It's an actor's job to do that. But there's so many people that kind of associate an actor or a comedian that tells a joke about something that they don't really believe, and they just kind of annihilate them for that.
He's just like, not to be, from my experience, it doesn't even, it's all about what's genuine and honest. All this cancel culture and PC, it's all just another, in my opinion, it's just another front for racism in all forms. It's just like, the people are super cautious about how they refer to other people, or tend to be cautious for a reason, because they're trying to cover up something. I'm not cautious. I don't need to be cautious because I'm not trying to cover up anything. You know, it's like, I mean, at one point, the family were, initially they were Nigerian because it was set in Northern Ireland, and then when we moved to the US, they were African American. I was like, Fallon, the Asian family, and then we decided to turn them Asian because it's such a hot topic. African American, it really is, of all the races here, which is understandable based on the history. So we did move that to Asian, but I also felt it brought a certain spiritual element to the piece, you know, which I liked. And but then, you know, Fallon's wife is, well, Tamara, who plays Claire, who's great, she's actually Caribbean, from the Caribbean, but we don't know that. So we assume in the movie she's African American.
Right.
So that was pretty potent, you know. One of the first images in the movie is pretty strong, right? So but yeah, that was it. Like, I mean, of course, what's going on at the moment in the last few years, it's in all our psyches and stuff, and but it's always been going on, you know. It's always been going on. There's always been racism, there's always been, you know, like whatever, and it's like, so yeah, I just it's, you're just dealing with real issues, you know, like real human issues, and that's the only thing you can, that's the only thing you can do, is like, do these characters, are they relatable, are they real? You can get an audience to go on any journey, whether it's in space or it's in a war zone or it's on a beach, as long as the characters are authentic, you know, that they, you know. And so it's like having those characters on the page and then casting them is just vital to how well a movie's gonna play, how it's gonna work, because audiences follow characters, and they can tell right away whether an actor is faking it, you know.
Yeah.
The last
And
thing
obviously,
you ever want an actor to do is to act, because by definition it's fake, you know. So I try and create an environment where it just feels as real as possible, and throw things around, throw the scene out, change it up, you know, whatever's in the moment. Always be ready to pounce on moments of inspiration and change, you know. Just change, just go with whatever's there in the moment, you know. So yeah.
And that, I mean, to actually grab these moments must be quite easy for you. Not easy, but it must be easier for you because you do tend to work with some of the actors that you've previously worked with before. Now, I mean, obviously you've worked with Guy before in another movie, Zone 414, and I think Guy recently worked with Alex in another film just recently. So
Yeah.
Did he come on board through Guy, or was that just happenstance that you managed to get him on board as well?
Exactly. Yeah. So he did a movie called Infernal Machine, where Guy was the lead, and Alex did it. I think he did a day or two, and they had a couple of scenes together. And it's funny, I'd spoken to the director of that movie, coincidentally, and he'd had a good experience with obviously with Guy and with Alex as well. It's just coincidence. I don't know. And then when I got Guy on to Sunrise, Alex's name came up as a potential lead, and I was like, right away, that'll work, because they worked together before. And I hadn't seen Alex in anything. I knew he'd carried some big movies. He was a star. He also dirtied his bib in Hollywood a bit. I really like that, because it gives him like an edge. You know, he's very young. Yeah. He is just like, but he had, you know, a reputation. We got on great. So I don't know. It's like, I mean, a lot of these actors who are really good, and Alex Pettyfer is a bloody good actor. He's got it all, and he had it all when he was 60. He just has it. He has the looks, the charisma, the talent, the instinct. He's not trained or whatever, you know, whatever it is. And a lot of these guys just have this kind of magic, and they have a sense. And if they sense that you don't know what you're doing, or that you are not setting a safe environment, you're going to have problems. You're going to have big problems. Yeah. Oh, he was so difficult. Maybe he was difficult because you didn't know what the fuck you were doing. Okay? Because they are entrusting you with their, you know, you have a lot of control. You are shooting them. You are capturing them. And film is a director's medium. You can make Anthony Hopkins look like an amateur if you want to.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've back to this picture. They talk about not just what they shoot, but then, like you said before, the editing afterwards. It just, that could just kill a film, or make it perfect. Yeah.
You know, if you're as good as Hopkins or Guy or whatever, you know, or even like with Alex, they cover themselves. They do, but you can elevate them tremendously, or you can downgrade them tremendously. Like, Guy's done a couple of stinkers in his day, and he'll be, you know, I've seen it, like, where they've just ruined, like, it's as discerning as he is and selective and brilliant. It's like, you know, if you've just shown up and it's like, oh shit, I'm on a stinker. I'm on something that nobody's focused, or mainly the filmmaker, you know, and it's like, and then you can shoot something that's good and it can disappear in the post. That's what I was so nervous making my first movie, is like, films get made in the post, in the edit. You can shot the most amazing movie and everyone can walk away. I think there's a EPK of this movie, and they interviewed Alex, and he said, yeah, I mean, the vibe is great, and everyone's like, oh, this is great, it's great, it's great, and you can sense it's going to be a good one. But you know what? It all comes down to the edit.
Yeah.
And this movie was a tricky one. We've had 2 editors on this movie, and you know, in fairness, the first editor had a very, very difficult task, because there's so many story threads. There was so much going on.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. It was kind of like the 2 timelines, without giving too much away. It kind of, I imagine that must have been quite a tricky job, not to kind of to build the stories together without revealing too much, and edit it all together.
Yeah, I mean, sure. And also, you know, Alex showed up without a beard, and he was meant to have a beard, and different. And I wasn't going to put a fake beard on him, so that made it more difficult, because he went to do Guy Ritchie's new movie right after Sunrise. So there was something going on there regarding that. I know that. So he just showed up there like, oh man. And it's like, you know, anyway, so, but it worked out. But it was more to do with just the amount of narrative threads and tonal, you know, there was the teenage drama, there was the horror element, there was the Western element, there was the racial stuff, the political stuff. And you're trying to like condense this into, what is this really about, you know? And like, how do you simplify this? And that's where the red coat and the significance of the red coat was never in the script. There was a couple of moments. And we'd set aside another day just to shoot Redcoat stuff that we never shot in the end. We didn't need it. But as it was in the edit, this movie has to be centered around this creature, this myth, this whatever. And that we figured it out in the edit. That's where it came from, because it wasn't in the script. There was so many other, the script lacked a focal point, because I think it had so many other filmmakers involved, and it lost its focus. It had great moments, but it didn't have an overall central tone. And
yeah, no, I get what you're saying, because that was one of my other questions. Was the film kind of felt almost like it was timeless in the sense that in certain, especially when outdoors, it felt like it could have been like the 1800s, and all of a sudden you see this girl with the Walkman foam headphones on, these kind of things, and it kind of threw me a little bit. I mean, it all flowed perfectly, but it just kind of felt like it was in 2 or 3 different movies. Not that it was a bad thing, but it certainly did feel that way at certain times. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a dark fairy tale or something, because I wanted to set a very kind of, the first thing is to get that tone. To set that tone, what kind of tone the movie has, and it's a very dark, brooding, atmospheric kind of Brothers Grimm fairy tale. But it has these contemporary elements, and it has these contemporary themes, like the political and the racial stuff, which is very relevant right now. But it's still like kind of dark fairy tale, and it's centered around this urban myth or rural myth or whatever you want to call it of the Redcoat, and it's a town ruled by fear, and so that permeates the town. And when the fear is at a maximum, the Redcoat appears and infects certain, it feeds off the humans in the town, because it feeds off the fear. It's like a cycle. So that's kind of where it kind of came from. But again, it was just trying to, the thing with the teenage love story, the teenage drama, and the violence in that storyline just echoes another generation of that, is affected by the previous generation, which is Reynolds, Joe Reynolds, and then his mom before him. And it's just this generational hatred and violence and racism, which is the history of Northern Ireland.
Yep.
All steeped in religious ideology and but this happens throughout the world in lots of different regions, so
you just cut up there.
So yeah, there was just a lot, and it was just trying to kind of hone it into one singular tone. Did I lose you?
No, it's okay. Yeah, you're back now. I can hear you now. Yeah.
Where did you lose me?
No, yeah, just that last little sentence there. It's okay. No, it was just that last little bit.
Yeah,
like
so it just
20 seconds.
It was a lot to condense. It was a lot of there was a lot of themes and narrative threads that needed to be kind of condensed.
Brilliant. Well, listen, I don't want to keep you. So just to finish off, then I was reading on IMDb, and I think you just mentioned that you're working on a film called Cape Point. Is that right?
Yeah.
Sounds kind of similar theme, that you've got some outcasts or some outsiders that go somewhere and get into deep water. Can you tell us a little bit about that project?
Well, I mean, it's a survival movie, and it's about a dysfunctional family that go on a trip and find themselves in an extraordinary situation, and they've got to band together to survive. And so it's a much more contemporary real life situation. I feel that Sunrise closes a kind of trilogy of much more insular kind of movies, and Cape Point is very commercial. It's like it's somewhere between Dead Calm and Jaws. So the primal threat that the family encounter above the water is echoed by what they find below the water. But it's about family need to find a way to survive in an extraordinary circumstance. Dysfunctional family, but what family isn't dysfunctional? So the more dysfunctional you can make this family, the more interesting the film is. But
Brilliant,
it
I
all
can't wait to see that.
comes back down to character again. Character, you know? Yeah.
Listen, thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much for your time. I wish you the best of luck with the film when it comes out next week, and I hope to see the next film, Cape Point, soon, and maybe in Bilbao and Fant. That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be killer, man. I'd love to go to Bilbao. Thank you. Nice to meet you,
Brilliant.
Howard.
Welcome here.